Hi all, hope you're doing fine. It's time for another Viva Talks session online. Today we're going to talk about radio. I'm Ellie for Westside Music Sweden, and with us today we're going to have Vic Galloway from BBC Scotland and Amie Borgar from YLE, Swedish Finnish National Radio Station. Have you noticed any changes in behavior for you, yourself, or your listeners?
Well, what we've noticed most is like the urge and the need for company for our audiences. It's been bigger than ever. We've had open phone lines to which people have been calling, asking about the virus, but also just these have just been super important just for company as well. And there we see the radio's, impact and the big part in the companionship business, so to say, that our audiences have just someone to talk to. We've also seen like an increased listening in our the live listening in our play services, which is interesting, but not the on-demand listening. It hasn't done a bigger increase during this period. Of course, it's making an increase over time and all the time, but where we've seen the biggest changes is the live listening in our play services. The AOD products that had gathered an increased listening is like stories for children, science content, and some music shows. But the live listening has been bigger. And it's difficult to make any deeper analysis yet, but we might see a change in people's behavior overall. And as my colleagues said, like this could be a challenge. How do we make them choose us, even if the daily commute trip doesn't exist anymore? But it's also a possibility. Like now there are new situations where they can choose us. One of our hosts who does the new music show at YLE Extreme said that even the content in our listeners' DMs and the direct messages, like in social media apps, and the content has changed. Before they reacted with just a few words like, oh, this is good, or no, this is bad, and nothing more. But now they've reached out with more, with deeper messages, as if they're also listening to music in a different way than before.
I would reflect that actually. I can't talk 100%, in terms of full analysis of on-demand listening and live listening. But in the 80s, a band called Buggles said video killed the radio star. And video didn't kill the radio, and the internet didn't kill radio, and it seems like COVID-19 hasn't killed radio either. In fact, much like what Amie's saying, I think a lot of people have been turning to radio, and especially live radio, as some kind of company. And as much as we all use streaming services to make our own playlists and to listen to music of all genres, there's something about a well-selected and well-curated list of music, a show full of music, that also has a little bit of information and a little bit of personality involved between the tracks, which is what a classic radio show is. Whether it be a topical show, a news show, or a straightforward music show, you want the presenter, the broadcaster, to give the listener, to welcome them into their world, to give them some context about each record, and also maybe just to talk about how they feel and reflect how the listeners feel. I've noticed, much like Amie was saying as well, that a lot of the listeners' comments have been sort of more in depth and sort of slightly more complex, rather than great records, as Amie was saying. They sort of want to connect with you on a personal level and tell you why they think it's a great record and how they perhaps discovered a record that they think I should be listening to. And I actually think the live interaction has gone up. Normally when we have live guests, for example, a band playing in session or a live interview, we will have a certain amount of interaction. But when it's me and records, just playing tunes one after another, we don't always have huge amounts of interaction. But right now we do. People are sitting on their own or with their families in the house. They're locked down. They want to sort of have someone that they can connect with in some way. And even if it's just Vic Galloway, who they've known for a few years, they've been listening for years to that guy, but now they realize that Vic will read their message out and actually ask them how they're doing. And John's been back in touch, and you sort of give an update during the course of the program about something silly or funny or something serious and deep. So apparently the listeners to BBC Radio Scotland, the live listening figures have really gone up during, the last 2.5 months of lockdown. People are turning to the radio in larger numbers. And I think it's purely to get that live human interaction and connection.
So what about programming? Is it affected by Corona? How does it differ to how you choose music?
We've been highly prioritizing now local music, and we've been lucky to notice that the local musicians also have been more productive right now, more than ever, which means that we've been able to add more Finno-Swedish music to our playlists, and we also been prioritizing Finno-Swedish music from our back catalog. At Whaley Viga, we've gone from like 14% Finno-Swedish music and other domestic music to 23%. At some days, the percent has been even 30, which I'm really happy about. And just to give some background to these numbers, the Finno-Swedish population, which is our target group, is about 5% of the whole population. And talking about Finno-Swedish music, it's music from this region. So this means we're really happy to have been able to add this amount of local music to our playlists.
With our programming, the one thing that has massively changed, in fact, it has completely vanished, is the live music. Almost every week on my program, I have a live session. So it could be a slightly more established band, maybe Franz Ferdinand or Mogwai or Bell and Sebastian, or someone, the Twilight Sad, someone that's perhaps, better known. But almost always it's new bands. And we have a BBC Music introducing elements where we're constantly discovering new bands, and often we are the first platform for a new band, especially a more alternative left field sounding band or artist, to showcase their music. Obviously that is no longer happening. Our last live session, I can't remember the exact date, but I think it was the 16th of March. Since then we've had some live guests, much like we're doing now on Zoom, on Skype, and different kind of software that we can interact on. But again, it's not quite the same. When I have a featured Scottish, European other, when we take 3 records, one from Scotland, one from Europe, one from somewhere else, and we review them with 2 guests. And we're doing that, for example, next week, and we've done it once using Zoom and Skype, and it's okay. It works. It definitely works. We can do it. But it's not the same as having the people in the studio with you. And we've been having lockdown sessions, so people recording their own tracks at home, just usually in a fairly lo-fi setting with just an acoustic guitar or maybe a little bit of technology. And we've been broadcasting some of those as well. But we really miss the live session side of things. So that is the major thing that's disappeared from my program. The one good thing is that we're playing lots and lots of records. So quite often I look and I go, oh, there's so much music, I can't possibly play all of this. That's still the case, but we're getting through more of it. And my program, in terms of the quotas, I would say it's 50 to 60% Scottish, and then the other percentage is international. So we'll play Swedish bands or Finnish bands. We'll also play American or bands from London, Manchester, anywhere in the world. So the quota stays roughly the same, but I've seen that lots of local musicians and people that I know have been productive. They may as well, if they have a home recording setup, they have a home studio, they may as well try and create new music and new ideas. People, despite all of this, are being creative. And I haven't noticed any slowdown in music releases. I think the music release schedule is continuing as normal. So we've had plenty of music, just no live guests.
With new music, but no events, you do continue the work you do, but digitally.
Swedish YLE did a 10-episode series with Finno-Swedish artists from their homes during now the pandemic, called Hem Alive, like Home Alive. And these artists share their thoughts about life and perform a couple of their favorite songs or not yet released songs. So that's been a great way for them to get out with their new music as well. So that's a video series we've done, and of course broadcasts like interviews combined to this and stuff like that. And then we did a big party at Zoom at YLE Extreme, like a big Valborgsfest May party, where we gathered our listeners. So everybody was in this like Zoom window, all our listeners, chatting with each other. And then we had a couple of live performances with one local band and then a Swedish artist, Linnea Henriksson. So that was really, we were really happy to do that. And Finnish YLE has also been like broadcasting these like quarantine sessions called Yle Olohuone or Yle YLE Living Room. They're now also all found on our play services.
What about you, Vic?
The BBC has lots of live events. We have, festivals and sort of live concerts and so on. For example, the Radio 1 has an event called One Big Weekend. And my program suggested some Scottish artists for the event. And it just happened last weekend. It was supposed to be in Scotland, funnily enough, this year. It's in a different part of the UK every year, and it was going to be in the city of Dundee. And obviously, COVID-19 stopped that from happening, so they did it digitally. One of the headliners was a Scottish artist, Biffy Clyro, and so they played a sort of session, and we had quarantine sessions from two BBC introducing artists that we'd suggested as well. But that happened across different stages online. So it's all archived. People can go and listen to and watch stuff now. But you could, as if you were at a digital festival, go from stage to stage, try some new music, try something more established, a big pop star, a rock act, So it was, I suppose, under the circumstances, as close to a festival as you could get. I don't know how we will move forward with live sessions, but I think it will get to the point when maybe 8 people, 10 people can gather in a room. And at that point, you won't be able to go to a live concert. You won't be able to go to a club or to a big concert hall or anything. But if 8, 10 people can get in the room, then we can have a live session. There'll be 4 in the band and 2 engineers, 1 roadie. We've got enough, we can get them in the room. We can make it happen. But until that point, yeah, lots of new music, new releases, but not a lot of live events, I don't think.
Anything you want to add, Amie?
I think this is not just going to be a change for a short period of time. We're going to see a change for a long period of time. So yeah, we just have to look forward, be inventive, and keeps our hopes up.
I agree. I think things will not change back to normal quickly. I think people are going to have to start thinking about making digital art, both music and visual, for people to consume on their computers, if that's the only way that we're able to consume music and arts for the next maybe year or so.